Do you have any questions? Yes. Dominique.
Hello, my name is Dominique Williams. I'm a member and I do a lot of stuff here. And I actually have a question for both of you all because I wanted to listen to what both of y'all had to say first before asking my question. You guys both have extensive backgrounds. A background that makes me excited to see what's going to happen next, right? What is it about coming, if elected, what is it about coming to this role that excites you about what you're about to contribute to us?
Okay. For me, I love change. I love the possibilities. And right now, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot going on here, right? But I see that only as a positive thing, a new pastor moving to a new place, setting down roots, increasing membership, it's all great. I just see positive things happening.
What he said. No. I see a young adult ministry growing. I see our worship arts ministry, the two choirs coming together and feeding us in ways they haven't in a long time. So I see this congregation growing and change. I'm excited. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Growing, providing new and different ways to worship and become whole for all kinds of different people, right? And so I think my excitement is to see this congregation go beyond our labels, beyond our alphabet soup of LGBTQIA plus whatever else you want to put in there, and become, we're already so diverse. This is the only place I know that has this kind of beauty and diversity. And I want to share it with the rest of Houston, with the rest of Texas, and with people from all walks and coming from everywhere, right? So that's my excitement. Thank you. You're welcome. You first, Kendrick.
Hi, my name is Kendrick Brown, and I'm one of the deacons here at the church. I noticed in the application that maybe it's something that's changed. I didn't see what position you both applied for. Is that correct? It wasn't a part of the process. Okay.
We don't
know.
So,
if you had to pick a position, which one would you pick?
Oh, ouch.
Go ahead.
Honestly, Kendrick, I would be great doing several positions on the board, all right? And I don't want to make that decision or pigeonhole anything. I'll give you a few that I would be really comfortable with. Clerk, done that. Board development, and I'm not here to steal anybody's position. I would be interested in being an assistant treasurer. I would be interested in. Actually, there's really not a position on the board I wouldn't be interested in doing, okay? I've done a few of them, not all of them, so that's that really non-answer.
And I'll kind of add to that non-answer. Yeah. There's not really one, because if you heard what I said earlier, I like to go through the entire cycle, all the positions, just to know what each person is going through. It's very easy to critique unless you walked in their shoes.
Ooh.
Thank you for your answers, because that's what we needed to hear. And to have, yes, you passed the test. It's time for a change, and I know you both, and I believe in both of you to be able to bring your skill set to what this church is becoming. So thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jared, I'm a short-time member here. My question for y'all. So in our previous meeting, there was a concerns about board members really standing in the way of change, right? And I noticed that both of you have one thing in common whenever I read your applications. You both saw the value in bringing in the youth community into the ministry, and I love that. My question for both of you, when you compare it to the previous board members as opposed to like what you've got going on, what risks are you willing to take to ensure that the dry bones don't hold this church back in its ability to bring in the youth community when it comes to forwarding ideas, when it comes to standing for some form of change connecting to fundraising? What risks?
So I'll go first on that one. Because, if you don't know me, I'm a risk taker. And if I played football, so if somebody in my way, I'm not afraid to take risks whatsoever. And, I'm old, but very young at heart. Ask Kevin, when we're with the grandkids, I'm one of those kids. So I'm old, but my mind is still young. And I think I can communicate at any age level there is. Our mission is to meet people where they are, and I think both Jackie and I are very good at that.
Hear, hear.
What he said? No. There have been enough menopausal older women on the board. Just putting it out there. That includes me. We are not the future of this church. So if we don't step into a future that includes at least some folks younger than us, we're not growing this ministry. So, on the other hand, us menopausal older women do have the time and the experience to serve, but I think we all need to be very much focused on where Resurrection wants to go and how we're going to get there. And that's got to include people of all colors and genders and non-genders and ages and abilities and, all right, as diverse as God made this world. So, there.
So we are now before we move on, I want to make sure, does anyone have any questions in the packet before we move on to our budget? So any of the reports that you saw there, because I felt like I didn't give you a chance to ask a question. All right. So next slide, please. So we're going to ask Doug Perkins to come and give the treasurer's report. He's going to need to have some slides flipped as he's going through it, so just be aware to stay with Doug and what he's doing.
Good afternoon. I'm going to brief you on the 2025 budget in a bit, but for right now we're going to brief basically the current state of our financial affairs of the church. So this report is a year-to-date report, so this is where we're at this point in the year, with basically 41 weeks behind us. I'll just focus sort of on the variance over there, which says where we were in terms of our actual income compared to what our budget was last year. Right now, our tithes and offerings are down about $94,000. Our fundraising is up about $15,000 from where we projected it would be at this point in the year. And miscellaneous income, which is basically our campus rentals, event rentals, and monthly rentals, and income from Big Tech's bingo, is down a little bit, but it could have been a lot worse because we did lose the majority of our income from Big Tech's bingo this year. Total income variance between the budget and actual is about $80,000. I have another slide that talks about where I project we'll be at the end of the year. And I will tell you that that's partially good news. Next slide. Year-over-year comparison. We're talking about 2023 and 2024 whenever you look at the right-hand column, the variance. The variance of tithes and offerings over last year, we're down about $64,000 at this point in the year. Our fundraising is up about $20,000. Miscellaneous income is up about $16,000, which says at this point, this year, as compared to last year, we're actually only down about $27,000, which is fairly close. I do want to draw your attention to the trend because I did include the year 2022 for tithes and offerings. You'll see in 2022 it's $525,000. In 2023 it went down to $479,000. In 2024 at this point in the year we're down to $415,000. So you can see a very steady decline there, and I do actually have 2020 and 2021 that shows the exact same trend. Fundraising, I will point out between 2023 and 2024, I mentioned already, but that's an upward trend. Our fundraising is doing pretty good. We still need to, we have our Meet Me at the Manger fundraising campaign at the end of the year, which we need you to support. And miscellaneous income, our rentals are doing really well, and again, they've offset a loss of income from Big Tech's bingo. All right, next slide. Our fund balances, we have a fund with Raymond James. It's our Alpha endowment. It's actually designated for use for paying people's tuition that are pursuing a Master of Divinity degree, and we have $32,000 in that account. It's designated for those purposes only. Our general operating funds we're at, and this is October 13th. We're about $20,318. I have a qualifier for that. Our project fund is $16,846, and our bookstore fund was at $2,400 on October 13th. Down in the notes, I will tell you that our general operating fund has designated and restricted funds also commingled with that account, but we do track those. One is for life development purposes, and another was for, drawing a blank right now. Anyway, they're designated and restricted funds, and they're really only for those purposes, which means on October 13th, the balance that we had for general spending was only $6,300. Now, I've spoken to you several times this year, one about a month ago, and our balance at that point was about the same. Our project fund, normally for spending for projects, improving our facilities and so forth, are at $16,846. We actually swept some money over there because we don't have any active projects, and that's our rainy day fund, our emergency fund in case we lose air conditioners, have roof leaks and so forth. So we're trying not to dip into that fund because that would be pretty catastrophic. Okay, next slide. We do have a mortgage. The balance as of October 2024 was $589,000. And the mortgage would be paid off on October 18th of 2032. Last slide. Just some key takeaways from the slides I've talked about already. Our actuals versus budget. My projected balance would be, or projected deficit over the budget would be about $102,000 a deficit. This is almost exclusively due to the downward trend of general tithes and offerings. Our strong rentals, which I've mentioned before, have sort of held us up, and they've offset some of the loss of income from other sources. The projected variance at the end of the year, I think I already had it on the slide, is about a deficit of $34,817 at the end of the year. We have had some loss of income, which I just mentioned, the loss of Big Tech's bingo. We were getting $40,000 for many years, and that was cut by about $28,000. So we're only getting about $12,000 a year from that, and that's not guaranteed. We do have a payment processing vendor that went out of business. You probably noticed that we switched over to Tidely for our giving, and they actually went out of business owing us about $20,000. That's just a recent development. We are trying to recoup that money, but we're not very hopeful at this point. We did have earlier this year, just to be completely transparent, we did have some people try to take some of our checks. They were stolen from the post office. They forged them. They cashed them. One was paid, and one was caught because we have some safeguards in place where our Director of Operations has to approve checks as they come through, and the amount was different. The amount had not changed, but the payee changed. We did contact our bank, and we were able to recover all those funds. Unanticipated expenses this year, it has been extremely challenging this year for your board and for me. We had the derecho, which we had to immediately write a check to cut down trees, not cut them down, but have them removed from the premises. And that was about $12,500. We did have some HVAC repairs, about $5,000. We still have an AC unit that's out. We bought a portable unit for the gathering place. And then we have we have to spend money on repairing places in the roof where it was leaking through. So we have not made any kind of major repairs or an attempt to replace the roof. So, and the last point here, about 65% of our balance funds in our bank accounts is restricted or designated for specific funds or for specific purposes. So when you count the amount that I said we had in the bank available for day-to-day expenses and our emergency expenses, we only have about $25,000 to deal with. And if we were to lose one air conditioner, which cost about $15,000, and that's not the largest one, it's my understanding, that would pretty much take it down a lot. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's some good news I mentioned before, and I'll mention that when I talk about the budget slides. So, any questions?
I'm Goldie. Yes, sir. I noticed in the choir loft, there's a couple of areas where it's leaking through and the water is dripping. Is that one of the spots that we could dip into the emergency fund to get that part patched?
I would say that we probably need to do that, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Tom Beauchamp. A couple of questions. You mentioned Big Tech's bingo and loss of income. Is that just due to them reducing what they pay out from what we earn in bingo?
It's not them reducing like the percentage. What they had some good times. They were doing bingo games, probably a couple sessions, 7 days a week, and they actually had to go to 2 days a week, and that's when they notified us that they would have to cut whatever their commitment to paying us.
Okay. And the second question I have is, I guess, related to the treasurer in the sense of the insurance on the roof in terms of getting paid for that. Is that We know there's obviously roof damage from the derecho and from the hurricane, but
Yes.
any update on the insurance or how it's going to get paid, or if it's going to get paid? I understand there's a problem with the insurance not
Yeah,
wanting to
I
pay.
don't recall the exact numbers now, but it's probably close to $200,000 claim we put in. Due to the age and condition of the roof, they reduced the claim to about, just don't quote me on the exact numbers, about $133,000. Our deductible, I believe, was $130,000. They wrote us a check for $3,000. Now we have $120,000 worth of, or $130,000 worth of repairs that we don't have the money to make.
And that's not going to be covered whatsoever by insurance?
No.
And there's I guess, are we fighting that, or?
We have not signed the $3,000 check yet.
Thank you.
So we're still, I in particular, still thinking about that.
My name is Dr. Renee, and just to follow up on Tom, does FEMA come into play with our damages at all? FEMA,
FEMA?
as far as the damages for the roof and all that, are they involved?
We haven't involved them.
I'm sorry?
We have not involved FEMA.
Is this an opportunity that we're missing, or? Huh? Okay.
We have insurance.
Oh, well, yeah, but this is a 501c3. Explain why as well, so there should be, sorry.
Well, we have insurance, we have property insurance, we have flood insurance. I will personally look into this, but it was my understanding that was not an avenue that we could take. We're fully covered. The problem is our property, the replacement value is high, and your deductible is based on the replacement value. So that's why we have $120,000, $130,000 deductible, which we basically can't afford to pay.
Hi again. So I did notice that in our previous session that we had, there were some great ideas like, let's talk about this in our actual services and bringing them up, right? Like as like an additional, like, hey, here's normal tithes and here's an additional tithes, or even just bringing this up in normal tithes. And I noticed that none of those ideas have been listened to. So my question is, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of having these meetings if we're not going to listen to the ideas? That's it.
Well, I was there. I am listening. I was listening. I will continue to listen. Your board is doing the best we can to get by and this situation. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah.
And for 2 years, the board sit up here every Sunday and let everybody know what was going on. And this is where we're at. I mean, he got called the Grim Reaper because we were up here talking about finances so much. People told us to stop. For 2 years. The last 2 years. Yes. And we were told to stop by people in the congregation because they didn't want to hear it anymore. So.
Well, we do have fundraising campaigns. We do need you to support those. You have supported us. We actually met our Easter and anniversary goals. So those are really good ways, other than standing up here and asking you to put more on the plate, that you can support the church finances. Drag bingo was a success. Thank you for all those that helped underwrite the expenses. We raised about $7,000 even before we opened the doors. So. And I mentioned before, we do have a Meet Me at the Manger fundraising campaign, and it's our biggest of the year, and we do need your support there too.
Doug, you also mentioned that Drag Bingo had every board member there. Every board member contributed and was there.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to follow on real quick to what Billy Ray had mentioned and also what Doug has said for the past 2 years. 2 years ago, Doug started asking if everybody would increase their tithes and offerings by just 10%, we could have covered all this. It didn't happen. It said, you've seen the trend we've been going over the last 3 or 4 years. So,
People are not responding to your pleas. So what is it that, what is the root cause of that? What, you know, if I am a member of this church and I know the church is sinking, there must be a reason why it continues to sink if we all know what the problem is.
Well, I will tell you, we had an improved budget last year. Everybody approved it. I told everybody that we would need an increase in general tithes and offerings of 10%. Some of you responded. Some of you didn't. Some of you that did respond and some of you that didn't may have retired. And we did have several of our congregants that did retire, and they generally have to reduce their tithes and offerings. What's that? Yeah, and we had 2 deaths. There were 4 individuals. I could name them by name, but I'm not going to. But they carved a divot out of our expected budget of $25,000. So it's kind of hard to deal with that. And I'm going to talk to that on the budget slides as well. So.
We've got a question back here.
Hi, Dominique again. And I might be the only, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I was just told to start talking, so
It's okay. Hey, Doug. I have a question for you about the budgetary projections through the remainder of the year as well as this year so far. Obviously, we've been without a senior pastor for a while now. We've been without our associate pastor for less time, but forgive my indelicate lack of phrasing here, but what is reflected in the budget right now? How much are we saving, quote unquote, by not having to pay out those salaries versus what we may be putting into having, guest pastors come each week? Is that essentially washing out? Are we seeing that reflected, or is what we're seeing reflected in these numbers reflective of the assumption of some continued payout of salary for those individuals? I'm just curious if you can clarify that.
Yeah, that's part of the light at the end of the tunnel, I think. In terms of our projected variance at the end of the year, that's almost totally offset by not paying a senior pastor salary. We did start the year paying an interim pastor salary. We have, for the remainder of the year, paid more than normal honorarium to compensate those guest preachers. Forget what the last part of your question was there, but.
So those numbers that we're seeing, does that still contain the assumption of a salary payout, and we will receive potentially a windfall at the end of the year as a result of not having to pay out those salaries, or the current projections are already inclusive of the fact that we have not been paying out those salaries?
Yes.
It's already inclusive of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We did make some staffing changes early in the year. We've tried throughout the year to cut expenses where we thought we could. So they've helped, but then we lost the big text bingo income. And then we had the derecho and other things. So, it's not all good news. We're not going to have any windfall at the end of the year. Yeah.
Thank you. Dominique Williams. I usually don't comment on the budget stuff because it's overwhelming to process, but I do have a couple of questions. The first one, you said we did great with big techs or with drag bingo. And I was wondering if those, because the slide was from October, I forget the date, was the drag bingo number that we raised included in the numbers projected on that budget slide?
No, the drag bingo are,
it hadn't been counted up yet or something?
not the proceeds from the actual event, because I was asked to compile a report for October 13th, and the drag bingo didn't take place until October 19th.
Got it.
So probably the majority of the underwriting that took place, people making a direct donation before the event, are part of that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So then that brings me to my next question. The success with drag bingo, is there a way to capitalize on that? If the Big Tex place, if I'm saying that name right, if they had to decrease how much bingo they've been offering to their original audience, is that an opportunity for us to take in that audience and offer the bingo to them? We could be bringing in our own bingo money and we don't really need the bingo people to give it to us, and we could still nurture our own community and put eyes on the place and still raise our own funds. So I was just wondering if maybe that was something that we can consider, since we already see the success in it every time we do it.
I've heard that suggestion, and the board has also heard that. So not only drag bingo or not even bingo, we probably need more, I know we need more fundraising events which people would respond to better than just drop another 20 in the plate.
Thank you.
Hi, Anthony White here. I'm concerned about this $20,000 that the payment processor stole. Can you speak more about that? Because it seems to me that if we were able to recover that, that would almost make up for the variance for the whole year.
I could not understand that. Yeah, we have filed a lawsuit. We're about 28 days into the filing. The people that we're suing individually and as a corporate entity have 30 days to respond. We did get an update from our attorneys. They're unable to serve because they can't find them or locate them, but they're going to continue to try to do that. You don't have to serve, evidently, to be able to go forward with a lawsuit, but at any rate, our attorney said that they're going to help us continue to pursue that. Unfortunately, there are many other churches that use the same company that we did. While we're down to 20,000, at least one other notable church is down 3 million. Another church was down $1.5 million. Another church was down 300,000. So any kind of assets that they locate from the company or the individuals individually is going to be diluted by our proportion of the loss, more than likely. So.
C.J. Woolsey. I think the board and the leadership in the church are doing a fine job. I think that this church, to survive and to move forward in a positive state, needs a pastor.
Yes. My name's Tony. I've been coming here for a few months. I believe there was a presentation last week about a fundraiser for the mattress sale. Was that factored into the numbers that you presented?
Oh, the mattress sale. No, those, yeah.
But that will assess the books this year.
if we get any kind of funds from the fundraiser, yes, it will help.
Thank you.
Definitely help.
That is a Houston Show Choir fundraiser, and we only get a small proportion of that. So I think last year it was maybe $400 or $500, if I remember, and don't quote me on that. So it's something they're doing to raise funds for Houston Show Choir, but they give us a percentage of it. So.
That mattress sale is actually dependent on how many people from Resurrection buys the mattress. We're working in cooperation with the show choir, but it all is dependent on the individual sale and who they designate so that donation can go to.
I know that there's a sponsor for, Renee again, sponsor for the mattress sale. I'm just, I always wondered why we're not out in the community getting sponsors for several of our fundraising opportunities. I know that I've lived in this state for over 40 years. And I know that when I was working for a 501c3 corporation, we just went out there and just asked everybody for money, for whatever, for education, for whatever it is that we needed. And I am not sure that I've ever heard of this church doing something like that. I wondered if we need to start looking at going out and asking people to sponsor, organizations to sponsor our fundraising, whatever it is. And I know that there are people out there who would give to the church. They were never asked.
We have talked about that. I think that's a really good idea. I think the congregation itself can help us identify those potential donors. I don't see Joe here, but I think it was ExxonMobil, through their employment, they made a generous contribution. It wasn't in the tens of thousands, but it was a notable amount that their employer gave because they were employed there and they asked their employer to donate to their cause. So, yeah.
I'll be willing to be a part of that group.
Hi, my name is Ruth Ann, and to go along with Renee, if there's someone that could help educate us or have a class on how to go and approach these companies, I'd be willing to be a part of that, and I would love to go out and try to get money for us. Thank you. I'm with you, Renee.
So on the 16th of November, the stewardship training class, I expect to see you there, Ruth Ann. And anyone else that want to join to learn about stewardship and engaging funds for our church, stewardship training on the 16th.
My name is Albert Massey. I've been a member for about 2.5 years. What can the board do and what can we do as a congregation to grow? We need more members. What can we do immediately to improve this situation? It would help us financially. It would just, we need more members. We need to grow.
And I will see you on the 16th at that stewardship committee training.
Bless you. No, I didn't board and congregation. What we do together.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for those insightful questions, and just trying to get a handle on the what, the why, the how, and the where is difficult. Are you raising your hand? Oh, you have. I saw your finger. Go ahead, KK.
Thank
KK.
you. Hi, my name is KK. I've been here forever. I think that the board is an amazing, amazing piece of this congregation, but that's all it is, y'all. They can't be the people that come up with all the solutions all the time. We can come to them with all these ideas, but if you don't have a solution, we can't put that expectation that they have to find that. So that thought process from you guys, all of us, has to be really deep in how do I do, what is my part in it, okay? Because Irene told me, don't come to me with questions, come to me with solutions. And I also want to know, or just, can you speak about the other things that this board does? These people give more than just their time. They give their tithes, they are required to give, okay? But they're not required to take. And the take I don't want them to have is all the bad, angry of why aren't you doing this when you don't have a solution. They can't have all the answers, guys. This is a community, this is a family. We have to hold hands, we have to hold their hands, and we have to help them at the same time.
Thank you, KK. Thank you for those words. The board is an amazing group of people who certainly love this church just as much as the rest of you who are here today, you know, hearing hard things and trying to navigate together. So I appreciate all of you being here and giving us your ideas and your thoughts and your hearts and your desires. At this time, though, Raymond Turner is going to come up with a report from the board.
Good afternoon. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for your positive comments that you've had for this board. This board has worked extremely hard over these last few years and put in more hours than you can imagine. Some of us are here 7 days a week, trying to do as much as we can to be able to sustain as we're going through this transition and transformation. And I sincerely hope that some of you have read some of the reports. That gives you a lot more information. You have an update on our pastoral search, where we are and what we're doing and what we're trying to do. But at this time, I want to take an opportunity to recognize two board members that are leaving us. And first one is Veronique Walker. And Douglas Perkins. Over these past 3 years, they have worked extremely hard, and we've tried our best to be able to do everything that you've asked. We've tried to come up with new ideas, and we do realize that sometimes we've had to make some decisions that have been very uncomfortable. And always remember, not only are we board members, but we're also members of the congregation. And so we have multiple roles. So the next thing I want to talk about is announcements. As we said earlier, oh, sorry. Okay, yes. Yeah.
So we have our reports from the Pastoral Search Committee. Could you put the slide up for the Pastoral Search Committee so we can see those people? Adam Garcia, Diane Thompson, Raymond Turner, If you're here, please stand up, of course. Shari McLaughlin, sorry, Shari, Van English, and William Bill Russell, who are all on that committee. You've seen the report. As you've read the report, do you have any questions to the Pastoral Search Committee that you would like to ask at this time? Nope. All righty. Thank you so much. Oh, here we got one. We got one.
Hi, I'm Jackie. Do I have to stand up? Okay. So I read the report, and it looks, if I read it correctly, it looks like there might actually be a candidate that's moving through the process. Are we getting excited? Yeah, I mean, it was, nobody's going to answer. Okay.
Oh, I'm going to answer? I don't want to answer. Yeah, I'm co-chair of the Pastoral Search Committee. And yes, we have had some candidates in the last couple months that have gone more in depth with the process, and we have one that we're following through right now that hopefully is very promising. We'll see how that goes. But we're moving to the next stage of the process, and so we should have a little more information on where we stand in another couple months. So.
All right, thank you. Next slide is the Bylaws Committee report. So the Bylaws Committee is, and the people who are on Bylaws Committee are Billy Ray Priest, Horatio Rodriguez, Kedrick Brown, Ken Thompson, and Shari McLaughlin. Did you want to say something, Kedrick? Go ahead.
Yes, my name is misspelled in that slide. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions to the Bylaws Committee because Horatio is here?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. Did you want to say anything, Horatio? No? Okay. We have a question.
Dan Lindquist, in reviewing the bylaws, are there any proposed changes that are coming up or being discussed at least? And if so, can you say anything about them?
As it says on the report, changes that were discussed were submitted, but all changes have been tabled at the September Board of Directors meeting, and they will be presented to the congregation at a later, to the congregation at a later congregational meeting. So everything's tabled right now.
To clarify that, some questions came up about the actual bylaws that we were using, so we had to verify that we had the right bylaws we were using. And don't think that's too bad, because the mother church did the same thing, but we had the right ones, and there were some questions, and we'd also added in some stuff about sacraments and everything, and the mother church is changing all those, so we had to take them back out. So we still got to get them through and get them edited and all that stuff, so it wasn't enough time to get it all done before this meeting. So they will be coming to you. There will be changes, yes, and they will be presented at one of the next congregational meetings we do. So.
You said the changes have been tabled or something like that, so it doesn't matter. I'll find out when you share the changes.
Just because we didn't have time to get everything ready by the congregation meeting.
Perfect, no problem. I had a question about it.
There's still a whole editing process that needs to go through that previous bylaws never went through, so we're trying to fix that. So I'll just still get it.
Oh, you know what? Then I can't ask one more question. Sorry.
Okay, there is a question.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm very new to the bylaws process, and so I'm just curious if, and I don't know if you can answer this now, do you look at making changes or things like that to the rules around how you can get on the board?
That's
Like, is
a
that
very
something, or is it set by the nomination, or is that like church to church?
Since I'm the board administrator, I have learned the bylaws backwards and forwards almost now. The bylaws set the terms for becoming a board member.
Okay.
So, and we have went in, and one of the things we did was expanded a lot of the roles so people get an explanation of what they got to do when they're applying for these positions.
Okay.
And we're working with the nominating committee after this year about setting up what has to happen to be for applications nominated, so it's all documented, so people are just not out there kind of flailing around. So we're trying to get all that stuff settled too. So.
Okay, and you said it's set. The board requirements are set by the bylaws.
By the bylaws, yeah. The bylaws is what governs the church.
Okay.
As far as our rules and regulations. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
And so that's what that's what we do. And there are changes coming.
And you can change them whenever you want, or is there a period?
The bylaws committee comes in every even year and looks at the bylaws and to see if there's any changes that need to be made, and then they recommend the changes to the board.
Got it.
The last couple of years there haven't been any, but this year we decided we were going to go through and clean some stuff up.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Billy Ray, do you want to touch on the difference between the bylaws and the processes?
The what now?
Touch on the difference between the bylaws and the processes?
We have bylaws, and then we will have policies and procedures. Bylaws are how the church is run, sets all the titles up and what we're supposed to do, specific committees that have to happen. And then the policies and procedures will be like social media policies, working in the children's ministry, what you have to go through to do that, background checks, the whole 9 yards. So they're a little different. And the policies and procedures can be changed outside of a congregational meeting. But the bylaws are set by the congregation. Sure.
So, and I'm just going to get specific so I can understand what I'm trying to figure out for myself. Because right now I can't run for the board. And so I wanted to know if that's going to be forever for me, or as long as I'm partnered with Cassandra, or will that ever change to a point where I'll be able to run for the board? Because
that will probably never change.
It'll never change?
Because that's a conflict.
I just needed to know for myself.
Conflict of interest. So you got to wait until Cassandra retires. And no, just kidding.
Seriously, that's a caveat for me. I really wish I could be on the board. I have, I'm doing as much as I can to get close, and I can never actually get there.
And we understand that because it's a lot of people that are partnered.
Yes.
That want to do things and we can't, but that's just because we have to be responsible about who does what.
I completely understand.
And being, I'm trying to think of the right word.
Diplomatic?
Conflict of interest, yes,
okay.
thank you.
All right, so none of those changes affect me. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Hi, it's Kedrick again. It's not a question, but it's a statement to the congregation. The bylaws are an easy read. They're long. It's not a "we the people of the United States" show, blah, 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 blah. It's not a King James British type of situation. Shakespearean language where it's over your head and all of those things. It's an easy read. And it's really not that long at all. We're in an age of AI. So if you don't want to sit down and go from left to right with your eyeballs and your brain to process, use your AI situation and highlight everything and have it read to you. They're really easy, and they really do open up questions and concerns and give a full explanation of how we operate as a church. And guess what? It's public knowledge. So I wanted to make that statement.
Thank you very much. So now we have the exploratory committee, and that the members of that are Dewana Jernigan and Jackie Marshall. And the whole committee, there's a sign. There's Billy Ray Priest is on that committee, DeWanna Jernigan, Doug Perkins, Eddie Domain, Jackie Marshall, Raymond Turner, and Bill Russell. So if you have any questions, understanding that their answers may be limited, but they'll be happy to take what questions that you have if they can.
All right, thank you. I'm DeWanna Jernigan, and I'm a former board member and a member of the, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this. This is a real estate exploratory committee. Because exploratory committee, you could be exploring a whole lot of things, right? So the purpose of this particular committee, the charge was to look at what our options were, or are, for the real estate. That is this building and the acreage that surrounds it. So this committee was developed earlier this year and has been doing the work. The report is included in the packet. And so at this time, as Connie stated, if you have any questions, time is now.
Hey, good afternoon, Craig Puckett. In one of our last meetings, the question came up as far as if we've had any significant or notable interest in the property. At that time, the answer was no. I think that was a month or so ago. But since then, we've also seen the Feds lower rates. And so wondering if that has sparked any additional interest in the property since then.
So we're excited that the rates are lowered. I think there's still a hesitancy for developers and others to step into a situation until after the election. So I think that could affect that. But things are proceeding, I will tell you that. Yep, that's really all I can tell you. But I do think it's going to have to wait till after the election before we would see any movement, really, on that.
Hi, Manny Ruiz again. Are you working with one specific realtor, or did you guys sign an exclusivity?
Yes and yes.
And
I
how
think
long
we just
how long is that contract for?
We just re-upped for another 6 months, I do believe, last month, wasn't it? I think so. Yeah, I think it was last month.
Hi. Quick question. It's Kedrick. Member here for many years, just in case you wanted to know. I hear you, Robert. In your moments of exploring and what's happening with all of our property, is there an idea to sell a portion of what we have so that income can come into the church at this moment? Is that being explored within any of this?
The short answer is no.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense. This property will flood again. We've actually looked into that option about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that, and 2013, so 11 years ago. And we couldn't get any traction with it because of the flood risk. We're not going to get any traction. We would have to sell the only piece of property that wouldn't flood, and then that's our biggest asset. The rest of it's, so we might as well sell it all. That's really kind of where we're at, all right?
Yeah, just to, again, she said it all. This property will flood again. And so part of the work that we have done, not part of the work that this committee has done has been to explore what options are available to us. And as you'll see and find in the report, we've made a recommendation to the board of directors, and the board of directors has voted on that as well. And the decision is that it's in our best interest at this point to sell the real estate.
Tony again. If you sell the property, which is, I understand, in process, their expertise. Is there any exploration about where the church is going to move to? Does that fall into your bailiwick, or is that another department?
Short answer to that is yes. Yes, we will need to, as part of this committee, we are engaged in exploring the options for the sale of the property, and along with the board and another committee that will be developed to support this effort, we will be looking at options for where we will exist in the future. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you very much. We now have the 2025 proposed budget, and the budget committee consisted of Bill Russell, Doug Perkins, Eddie Domain, Raymond Turner, Robert Amadon, Tricia Phillips, and Z. Broussard. So Doug will come up and make the report, but those are the people on the committee that compiled the report.
So thank you for your support a while back when Raymond was up here. I was feeling like I did need a hug. And that partially satisfied it. I did want to follow up on the designated and restricted funds. They are Life Development, which brought you Soul Food Sunday and the line dancing events, among other things. And the other was money from the AIDS Walk, which we receive every year. So, and those are designated and not to be spent on day-to-day expenses. So let's go to basically, I guess, slide number 3 of the 2025 proposed budget. Okay. All right. I will tell you up front that your budget committee decided to base the 2025 budget based on the 2024 projected actuals. The general tithes and offerings are projected and are being proposed in the budget at $527,000, fundraising at $97,000, and miscellaneous income of $184,000. And you can see the spread there, the percentages. That brings the total operating budget of $808,000. We're not proposing any capital improvements to the facilities in light of the exploratory committee actions, which keeps our projected income budget at $808,000. I've shown, and they're in your package again, the numbers for the past 5 years, starting in 2021, where our budget was over $1 million, and it was higher in 2023, although we didn't make that amount, and proposing that 2025 match 2024. As you can see at the very bottom, starting with 2022, the change from 2021 is minus 9%. You can see it basically a steady decline. I put the number at the end of 2025, the difference between this year and 2025 next year, of 0. So that's going to be, I'm going to have that in my last bullet, so I need to talk to you about that. Next slide. The expense budget. We're basically basing, again, the expense budget on what we spent this year. We did it without terrible hardships, although we did have some hardships. But we're proposing salaries, benefits, stipends, and money that we pay into the UFMCC pension fund for pastors. The total amount in our budget would be about 38% in salaries, or $306,000. The second, and at 13%, would be worship, spiritual development, connections, and outreach. So that directly supports our worship services and other activities. As you go down the list, you'll see we have a mortgage. We pay $85,000, over $85,000 a year for our mortgage. We have general administrative expenses and ties to the denomination of $84,000. We have property insurance, we have flood insurance, and other liability insurance that we pay about $74,000 a year. Our utilities, which seem to go up every year, is about 68,000. I think I added about another 1,000 in there for this year. Might go up more than that. Campus services and operations, those are basically mowing and just upkeep of the grounds, and it's very closely related to building maintenance and repairs, which come in at 7% and 4% respectively %. So every year, we try to be as conservative as we can. We don't want to have a fundraising campaign which is not attainable, or expenses which we think we cannot support. Hence, the expense budget matches the income budget. We're not in a position where we could bring in more money than we spend without cutting operations. As you'll see in the first bullet down here, this does assume a new senior pastor is hired and onboarded and enters the payroll about mid-year 2025. That is included in the budget. If they come before, we're going to have to find more money. If they come after, we'll have a little bit of surplus. Not budgeted are repairs to the roof that I mentioned before, any kind of replacement of AC units. There's a lot of windows that are leaking air and water and et cetera. Those are not included. We have a kitchen hood that needs to be replaced that's inspected and scrutinized every time the health department comes out here. And again, I mentioned the deductible. I think I might have said 130. It's either 120 or 130,000 that every major loss that our church has, the church has to pay the first $120,000. So if we were to have a major storm or catastrophe, that is, we would need to pay the first $120,000 or make other arrangements. That's not included in the budget. Okay, next slide. Okay, at the income level I described, this is partially the good news. As of October 13th of this year, our average weekly attendance has been 208 persons. The average weekly giving has been $48.64. With a general tithes and offerings budget of $527,000, if we maintain our current level of attendance, which I have seen no decline in attendance. I haven't seen a lot of increase, but I haven't seen any really appreciable decline over time. Our average weekly tithing offerings per person would need to be $48.72, which is practically the same as what we're bringing in right now. So it would require a slight increase, but close enough for government work for somebody that served in federal government for 30-some years. So the weekly giving target equates to about $44,000 a month, and fundraising and rental income need to increase by any decrease. If we were to suffer a loss again of big techs or we fall short in our Easter giving or so forth, we're either going to have to add additional fundraising activities or cut expenses in some way. That's just the way the budget operates. Okay, last slide. Key takeaways here for the 2025 budget. Again, it's based on what our projections are of the actual expenses for this year. That's probably the most realistic thing we could do and allow for a little bit of inflation. Good news is inflation supposedly is down. Any loss of income will need to be offset by lowering those expenses or increasing income. And our campus leases and rentals need to stay strong, which they are today, and I don't expect that to change. Expenses, again, we're including in the budget 6 months worth of salary and benefits for a senior pastor. That also assumes that we do not make any additional new hiring or spending unless offsets are identified. Any unexpected high cost of repairs are not funded in the budget. If something catastrophic happens or something major, we will need to come to the congregation to pay for those. What you can do, again, it's going to require about the same level of giving. We're not going to turn down if you want to increase your tithes. If you've got to raise at work, please consider raising your offering. If you have an unexpected windfall of some kind, please consider giving back a portion of that. What else you can do? You can tell us when you are expecting a change, especially a loss or a decrease in your giving. If you're going to retire and you're going to need to cut your giving in half, please let the board know. Please let the treasurer know. That will help them to react and adjust the budget before it actually becomes a problem. What else you can do? You can pray for the budget. You can pray for the finances, pray for the church, and all the other activities that we have going on. I assure you that all of the board is doing that on a daily basis. Next thing you can do, you can come to church next Sunday. You can come to the annual congregational meeting, and you can vote. You can vote on this budget. We will need a quorum, and we will need a simple majority, I believe it is, for the budget to pass. So that's all I have. Any questions? Or any hugs?
Good job, Doug.
Thank you to the budget committee as well.
Hey, Doug, Craig Puckett again. Question on the salary portion. So it says that value includes senior pastor onboarding, assumptive mid-year, does not mention associate pastor.
That is correct.
Okay, so the assumption is no associate pastor.
For the time being, we would not be in a position to hire both.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Tony again. Hey, I have an idea for a fundraising possibility, but how would I go about making it? Who and where would I make the proposition to move forward on implementing? Okay, thank you.
We meet every fourth Monday at 6:30. So any and everybody, the board meetings are open. And so I encourage everybody to come. If you have an idea, that is where you would bring your idea. And then also online on the website, if you have an idea and you've got people already that want to do it, you too can put in a request to do your own event, or whether it's a class or just your own event, you have the power to do that too. So board meetings, and then online you can put in your own request to do your own event.
I've just got a quick comment, not a question. Ken, are you still up there? Is Terry here? Ken.
Coming out of the crow's nest.
I just also wanted to let everybody know, give a great thanks to Ken and his work with our renters. His efforts have saved us and kept us afloat. And so Ken, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, Raymond Turner's going to come up with any announcements that he'd like to share with y'all, and then he'll have the closing prayer, and then our meeting will be adjourned after the closing prayer. So thank you all very much for being here.
All right, thank you. Once again, we want to thank our board members that are leaving for all of their hard work, and also to thank our current board members for all the hard work that they're currently doing. So I want to remind you of our stewardship training on the 16th, and all those people that said that they wanted to be a part, Ruth Ann and a few others. I'll be expecting to see you, Dr. Renee. Oh, Dr. Renee, I know I can depend on you. All right. Also, make you aware that our deacons will be doing a ministry survey, and that is in conjunction with the exploratory committee. So they will be reaching out to you via email and phone calls. So please, all of our ministry departments, please make sure that y'all respond to that survey. And remind you of our annual congregational meeting on next Sunday. If nothing else, we stand and we're going to close out. Yes.
Is that session on the stewardship going to be recorded because some of us can't make it that day?
It's an in-person training in the gathering place. So it will probably not. It's from 9 to 1. The denomination is actually sending someone in to help us with that training, and she will also be preaching that Sunday, Dr. Renee Phillips. So we'll do our best to capture as much notes as possible, and any handouts we'll try to share with you. Okay. I don't know if it's possible. I'll have to talk with our AV team to see if it's possible that we can record it, but I'll find out. And if so, we'll definitely do that. Okay. All right. Any more questions? Okay. Shall we stand, please? Dear Creator, as we come to the end of our time together, we thank you for what has been accomplished here today. May the matters discussed serve as a catalyst to move us forward and cause us to advance and see the growth in all areas of our church lives. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.